Welcome. This is DA Sports. I'm your host, DASASI. And thank you. This is episode number 40. Now, in today's episode, we got a couple of things to get into. Of course, this is going to be very exciting as we get into championship week. But to start the episode, we're actually going to get into my next segment of On a Ledge, where I make a statement about somebody that's still playing in the playoffs that most people probably won't agree with. But after On a Ledge, then of course we're going to get into my breakdown from championship week, where I'm going to break down each game. I'm going to give you my predictions, and I'm going to give you my score for each game for who's going to advance to the Super Bowl. So, let's get into it. Okay, so for starters, we got to get into my segment, On a Ledge. Now, for anyone that's new to the channel, On a Ledge is a segment where I give you a statement about something related to some type of sports topic that I might be the only one who agrees with this statement as of right now. With we now being in the final four teams in the NFL, obviously with everything else, a lot of it boils down to the quarterbacks. We got 4 quarterbacks left. 2 of these quarterbacks are pretty much clearly regarded as the best 2 of the top 4 quarterbacks in the league. Pretty much consistently year after year between Mahomes and Allen. Right? Now, in the other 2 quarterbacks, we got one quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who has fluctuated up and down in ranking in the last 2 to 3 years. And then we got another quarterback who's a rookie. Now, my On a Ledge statement for this week is that I believe that Jayden Daniels is already a better quarterback today than Jalen Hurts. Yep, I know. It sounds crazy. You can't put a rookie quarterback in front of other quarterbacks. You can't put a rookie quarterback ahead of a quarterback who's been to the Super Bowl and played overall pretty well in the Super Bowl. That sounds blasphemous, right? Makes no sense. I don't care. If you told me to rank the top 10 quarterbacks right now, and it doesn't matter how you put it, if you want to say top 10 quarterbacks in terms of whom I'm going to build my franchise around, like I'm a GM and we're doing a redraft of every single player and it's time to pick quarterbacks, I'm taking Jayden Daniels before I'm taking Jalen Hurts. Now, for those of you who would be like, well, that's kind of a cop-out because Jayden Daniels is younger, so as a GM, you want the younger quarterback. Okay, fine. Let's purely look at it from, like, it's for 1 year, and I'm a teammate, and the head coach came to me and say, hey, we got a chance to get one of these 2 quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts or Jayden Daniels. Who do you want? Give me Jayden Daniels. We can break it down on so many different levels, okay? Now, if we're talking just pure talent, ability, Jayden Daniels has a stronger arm. Jayden Daniels is, to me, I would say he's more mobile. Now, yes, Jalen Hurts is stronger of a runner. So, like, when you need a yard or 2, yes, Jalen Hurts is going to give you that 1 or 2 yards easily. He's got a stronger base. He probably outweighs Jayden Daniels by maybe close to 50 pounds, like no exaggeration. But in terms of running speed, I'm pretty sure Jayden Daniels runs faster. Now, I haven't looked at their actual 40 times, but just in terms of if you watch it on the field and you watch them run, I see Jayden Daniels pulling away from people more than Jalen Hurts. If you talk about just maneuverability, whether that be inside the pocket or outside the pocket, I'm still going with Jayden Daniels. If you talk about accuracy down the field, Jayden Daniels. If you go with decision making, Jayden Daniels. Also, Jayden Daniels is taller, I believe, also. So, other than weight and strength and tough yardage running, those are the only things I would put Jalen Hurts ahead of Jayden Daniels in. Now, obviously, Jalen Hurts has the added advantage of experience. So, okay. But I think that Jayden Daniels can get that experience, and obviously he will as the years go on. And this particular game where they play each other is going to be another prime example of building that experience. Now, aside from just the raw, speculative talent attributes that I said I would favor Jayden Daniels, let's take a look at some of the stats. So here's a comparison of Jayden Daniels and Jalen Hurts statistically for their careers. Now, obviously, in terms of totals, all of Jalen Hurts' stats are going to be more than Jayden Daniels. Sorry, I'm breaking it up because Jayden and Jalen, like, their names are so close. I have to, like, pause a second to make sure I'm getting the right J with the other name. So obviously, Jalen Hurts' stats are going to be more in terms of total. But if you look at the number of games that each one has played, Jalen Hurts has played more than 4 times the amount of games that Jayden Daniels has played. But if you look at all the statistics, let's say you were to multiply all of Jayden Daniels' stats by 4, majority of them would be ahead of Jalen Hurts in terms of total stats, right? Now, some of these things are already better in terms that are not about totals. They're about percentages, like completion percentage. They're all in favor of Jayden Daniels. And if you simply, outside of the statistics, if you simply just look at the way each team is run, the Eagles' success doesn't rely as much on Jalen Hurts to be successful as much as the Commanders rely on Jayden Daniels to be successful. So, like, if we were putting it on a scale of 1 to 10, and we said, okay, this is the number that is required, the minimum number required for them to win this upcoming NFC Championship game. For Jalen Hurts, that number would probably be a 4, meaning he doesn't even have to play his average style game. He could throw for less than 100 yards, but if he doesn't turn the ball over and they give the ball to Saquon 25 times and he makes maybe one good deep pass throughout the game, Philadelphia can still win. But on the other side, Jayden Daniels, he would require, I would say, at least an 8. At least an 8 in order to beat the Eagles. Meaning, he's not going to win the game throwing for under 100 yards. He's not going to win the game, turning and handing the ball off 30 times in the game. He's not going to win the game relying on his defense to shut down the Eagles for the entire game and have to only put up, 14 points or something like that. He's got, not as good as supporting cast. The Eagles have better running backs. They have better receivers. They have a better defense. They have a better O-line. They have a better D-line. I mean, coaching, you could argue. I guess I would still give it to the Eagles right now because Sirianni has been successful, so I would still give it to the Eagles as of right now. So all of the supporting cast around Jalen Hurts is better than the supporting cast of Jayden Daniels. But nonetheless, if you give me one of these quarterbacks, I'm taking Jayden Daniels right now. So that is my segment for On the Ledge. Jayden Daniels is currently a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. And that's it for this week's segment of On a Ledge. Okay, so lastly, to finish off this week's episode, of course, we got to get into my breakdown of Championship Week football. That's right, we got the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game. There are only 3 games left for the entire season. We got 2 on Sunday, Then we, of course, get the biggest game of them all, the Super Bowl, in 2 weeks. So let's break down each game. For starters, we're going to go with the game that happens first, the NFC Championship game. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington Commanders. Now, throughout the season, because they are in the same division, they did play each other twice. A lot of people don't realize that Washington actually won the last game that they played between these teams. Now, some would say, oh, there's a caveat. Jalen Hurts got injured early in the game. I think it was like in the first quarter of that game. So you could say, well, yes, Washington beat them, but they didn't beat Jalen Hurts because Jalen Hurts didn't really play most of the game. And if you're an Eagles fan, that sounds like a legit argument, right? But the Eagles were still productive offensively. I believe they scored 33 points in that game. So if you can still score over 30 points offensively with your backup quarterback, then Jalen Hurts not being in the game probably didn't have much of an impact. The important part was that Jayden Daniels was still going up against this top-notch defense that hadn't been allowing much points, and they scored, I believe, like 38 points in that game. So, even though Jalen Hurts didn't play most of the game, I still would give that win to Washington being very impactful. I think Washington is coming into this game with a lot of confidence. Like, yeah, they beat us once, but we also beat them once. Yeah, we have a rookie quarterback, but he's already confident. He's been playing well, and he beat them before. So, and the people he beat are the people on defense that are still going to be out there. So, I expect that Jayden Daniels is going to have tons of confidence going into this game. I think this game is going to be very high scoring, and I think it can go either way. Right now, Philadelphia is a 6-point spread, a 6-point favorite to win the game. They are at home. The weather's going to be cold. So I understand the line. Philadelphia also, like I mentioned in the previous segment, has more talent around them, and they have more experience. They've been here before. They've been to the Super Bowl. A lot of the members on this team were on that Super Bowl team from 2 years ago. So I have to admit I'm a little torn by this pick. I just finished talking about how I believe that Jayden Daniels is a better quarterback right now than Jalen Hurts is. I also have to admit that Jalen Hurts got hurt in the last game and didn't look like he was 100% even when he came back in the game. So my gut is telling me that Washington is going to be able to pull off the upset. But on the other hand, before the playoffs started, I projected the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl. And to be honest, I like being right. So, with that being said, and I know I kind of went through this last week when they were playing the Rams, where I said, well, the only reason I was picking the Eagles to beat the Rams is because I had picked them before. I'm more so going with the same line of thought. I wouldn't be surprised no matter who wins the game. I am going to stick with the Eagles. I just feel like at the end of the day, one person can't win the game by themselves when you're going up against a complete team, right? The Eagles, like I said, are more talented in every single aspect of their team, and their strengths match up against the Commanders' weaknesses. The Commanders are really weak in run defense. The Eagles are one of the best running teams in the entire league. So I think that Saquon is going to have a huge day. Case in point, so do the bettors and Vegas' betting line. The largest line ever set for a running back with rush yards is in this game. Saquon's run line is set at 130 yards. That's absurd. Nobody ever gets that high of a line. Even just over 100 is absurd, but 130, that's kind of ridiculous. But that line is set because he's averaged more than that in the 2 games he played in this season. So with that being said, I am going to stick with the Eagles winning this game, but I do not think they're going to cover the spread. I think the final score is going to be 31-30. I think it's going to be a back and forth game, and it'll come down to either a last-second field goal or a last-second drive for the Eagles to pull off the win. All right, now lastly, the last game as a part of championship week, the AFC championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. Now, this is the game everybody's been looking forward to. The Chiefs are currently a 2-point favorite in this game. They are at home. Now, we talked about this earlier in the season, like week 1, where as it relates to lines, that typically if you're the home team, you're typically given at least 3 points for your spread, just for the fact that you're at home, you have your own fans, you're going to be able to sway the crowd and get them in the game for crucial moments. You're also more familiar with the atmosphere, whether it be the weather, the field, scoreboards, where things are located, things like that. You also get, less travel time or rest. So all of those things get built in, and to usually the home team is automatically spotted 3 points. So in this game, with the Chiefs only being favored by 2, essentially the idea is that Buffalo is a better team, but because the Chiefs are at home, they still have the 2-point spread. But if it was a neutral site, they're saying Buffalo would be favored to win the game. Now, to be honest, I agree with that assessment. I know it sounds crazy because I'm obviously a Chiefs fan. Been a Chiefs fan for a long time, since 1992. I obviously want the Chiefs to win. But if I'm being honest, if I'm being objective, if I'm being a fair sports broadcaster, a fair sports opinionist, I have to say that the Bills should win this game. Okay? The Bills beat the Chiefs earlier in the season. They're the only team that beat them. The last game of the season didn't count because none of the starters played. So the Bills are the only team that beat the Chiefs all year. Okay? And they beat them by more than 1 touchdown. And Josh Allen looked dominant in the game. Josh Allen has all the confidence in the world that he can get the job done. And one of the biggest things that I think changes for this year's team versus previous Bills teams is their running game is a lot stronger than it has ever been. A lot of times in previous playoff matchups, it came down to Josh Allen having to be great, having to throw for 350 yards in order for them to have a chance to win, and they weren't able to get it done. But now, Josh Allen doesn't have to be Superman. He can have 0 passing touchdowns, and they can still win the game. Go look at last game. That's exactly what happened. Yes, he had 2 rushing touchdowns when they were close to the goal line, but he had no passing touchdowns. And he didn't throw for 200 yards. So, I think that same type of game plan and structure is going to go into this game. I think early on the defenses are going to be playing really well, and then as time goes on, the offenses are going to kick in. I definitely think it's going to be a back and forth game. And based on how these things go, whenever Mahomes loses in the AFC Championship game, it's in overtime. So, I'm predicting, I know it sounds crazy, I'm predicting the game goes into overtime. It'll be 24-24 going into overtime. The Bills this time will then win the toss, and then they'll drive down the field. Can't believe I'm saying this, but they'll drive down the field and get a game-winning field goal and win this game 27-24. That's right. I'm picking the Bills to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead to advance to the Super Bowl 27-24. Can't believe I said that. Psych! You think I'm picking the Bills to beat us? Hell no. Yes, they're going to go down and they're going to kick a field goal in overtime and go up 27-24. But guess what? Thanks to Josh Allen, there's new overtime rules. So we get the ball back. Mahomes gets the ball, drives down for a touchdown, and they don't need the extra point. Game over. Chiefs win 30-27, going back to the Super Bowl to play the Eagles, as I predicted before the season said. Exactly. Chiefs win. Let's go. All right. And that's it for this week's episode. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe and share wherever possible. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Peace.